Good afternoon. Welcome to the Goldsboro City Council work session on Monday, August 7th, 2023. It's 5 o'clock. Call the meeting to order and ask that our clerk call the roll.
Mayor Ham.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Matthews.
Present.
Councilwoman Jones. Present. Councilman Broadway.
Present.
Councilman Gaylor.
Present.
Councilman Bass.
Okay, we're all here. So we're first, next item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. Does any council member have anything you want to add or amend to the agenda?
I would like to add something, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just wanted to add a little bit more clarification on the 200 North Carolina Street decision. I just wanted to ask some more questions about that.
What is the specific subject? On
I want to know, do we discuss it now, or?
No, just tell me, so I'll just put it down as 200 North.
Yes,
Okay, all
Carolina
right,
Street,
okay,
yes.
very good,
mhm.
all right, thank you. And we'll do that under old business?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, are there any other, or is there any other change or recommended change, addition, et cetera? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
The second?
Second.
Motion is made and second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor of adopting the agenda as amended, signify by raising your hand. Okay. The agenda is approved as amended. Okay, since there is no other old business, we'll dive right into that. So,
Okay, well, since
Councilwoman
this
Jones?
property is in my district, and there were some things that I just really wanted to clarify and understand. I do understand that this was joint property by the county and the city, and that it was deemed surplus property, from my understanding. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. It was deemed surplus property,
May have been deemed surplus by the county, but not by the city,
not by the city. Okay.
to my knowledge.
So, when was it no longer surplus
I don't know
property?
if it ever was surplus.
It was never surplus by the city.
Yeah, we never put it out for sale. It's my understanding.
Well, that was my concern, because it came before us as surplus, but then it never came back before the council for us to discuss whether it's surplus, whether it wasn't surplus, or who made it surplus, or
I think
who
you're talking about a piece of property that was pulled from an agenda
Yes.
before, right? So it was determined that it was not surplus, so it wasn't put on the agenda.
So who
But
determined?
if you would like, that's the staff, talk to the mayor about it. If you would like to change that, y'all can talk about that. But the reason why it's not surplus property is because we're looking at it for potential development in downtown Goldsboro. To include, it could be part of the Choice Neighborhoods Initiative. But we do not want to get rid of that property at this period of time. And council can obviously overrule that and change that if they'd like to.
What I'm asking, did the council have an opportunity to do that? Did we have an opportunity to do that as council?
We never vote on, we never.
So
don't
my
recall
question
it,
is,
yeah.
why didn't we? I don't understand why didn't we, because this is in my district, and I'm very concerned. I know we always want to give property back to constituents for, tax purposes, and that grows. So I want to understand why this property wasn't brought back before the council to discuss it.
well, I don't recall the specifics, but it was deemed to not be surplus, and that's why it was not brought back to.
Well, who deemed it? Did the council
Well,
deem it?
was, I think research
Staff,
proved that.
downtown development department. I mean, this is not been put out there as surplus property, so.
So do they override the
No.
council?
No, ma'am.
No,
You
Sir?
can make a motion to deem it surplus property if you choose to do so.
Well, what I want is now, I'm gonna be very clear. I do not know Mr. Azale. And I only know of Mr. Bevan Foster because he's been on the council and he's now commissioner. But this property is in my district. And the county said that they had deemed it surplus property and agreed that Mr. Uzziel could purchase this property. Am I correct?
I don't know.
Yes?
That's correct.
Yes.
So then we as a council did not even vote on it and did not discuss it.
Correct.
So what I'm asking is why the council and me as part of this being part of, I'm very passionate about stuff, and me as this being in my district, that I didn't get a chance, or the council get a chance to discuss it. And this property is right beside Mr. Uzziel's property. And when he spoke, he said that he'd been cutting the property. Now, I know that's, that's neither here nor there, but my problem is that why the council was not given the opportunity to discuss this property.
I want to say that because it was determined, I use the word deemed, that's not the proper word.
Well, yeah, I'm just,
It
for
was
lack of a better
determined-
word,
It was determined.
identified, or however you want to use it.
I use the term deemed. It was
Okay,
my-
I do too, okay.
So, in researching this property, it was determined that it was not surplus. The city had not declared it, their portion of it surplus, or their joint ownership of it surplus.
Okay, you keep saying the city, so who is the city if it's not the city council?
Well, you're right about that.
Specifically, who was it?
Yeah, who is the city if it was not the city council? This is what I've heard I heard all this conversation, and I'm not an ignorant woman, but I'm trying to understand, it says the city did not, but aren't we the city council?
Yes, yes.
So, we didn't discuss it.
Okay, would you like to, you're asking to have it discussed right now?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
can we discuss it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So why can't it be deemed as surplus and allow the person that, if I had property beside me and I had the money to buy it, I would want it. As a matter of fact, there's a situation right now that I would like to buy this property beside me, but I can't. So, can the city just discuss it? Not the city, can the city council discuss it?
Of course.
Yes.
Okay. So can we open it up to discuss it?
We're doing it right now.
Okay. So I'm the only one that's concerned.
No, ma'am.
No, but,
You brought the item to the agenda, and you wanted to discuss it, so we're here
Yes,
to
well,
discuss
I
it.
think that I am discussing it. I think that, Mr. Uzziel, the Uzziels should have a right to purchase this property if they want it, if he wants it. Because it's right beside him, and plus the county, which you said the county, they could deem it this and we could deem it something else. Am I right? We could just say no.
Yes.
So, what is the council, because it didn't come before the council, what is the council deeming it as? Are we going to discuss what we are deeming it as? What are we deeming it as? That's my question.
So presently, it's categorized, the category of that is surplus property.
Okay,
So
It's not surplus property right now. We're not considering it surplus property. If we did, it would be for sale. Now, if
Okay.
council would like to declare it surplus property for sale, you
okay,
can do that.
I stand corrected then.
You'd have to vote on it, though.
that's what I was trying to say. We can make a motion to add this property as surplus property,
correct.
which will make it available to be purchased. We have the power to do that as council. So
that's what I'm saying, and we wasn't given that power. We were,
We can do it right now, though.
okay, yeah. Well, I want to give the city council the power to make this property surplus property.
Madam Councilwoman, the council already has the power to do that. All they need is a motion.
That is my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and second, is in discussion.
Can you clarify the motion, please?
Okay.
Okay. The motion is that we make the property on 200 North Carolina Street surplus property.
And the Mayor Pro Tem second that. Motion made and second, is in discussion. Yes, sir.
I would suggest you contact the Downtown Development Department and give them an opportunity to talk as to why they would like it removed and not part of the surplus property. I've also mentioned that there's a couple of different things here. If you sell it to the Mr. Uzel or anybody else, now that could stay exactly like it is for however long he would like it to be. But the city currently owns it, and the city's looking at developing that area. So if you want it for development or future housing, you might want to retain that property. We're also dealing with Choice Neighborhoods, which is looking to do mixed-income neighborhoods, and that is a prime piece of property that could be used for that. If you sell it to Mr. Uzel or anybody else, you don't own that potential.
So is there a possibility if the downtown development wants it, they could propose a purchasing price to the Uzels? If
I don't understand what you're saying.
It's okay, I can clear it up. If we surplus it and we allow the Uzels to buy that property, and the downtown development has an interest in that property, could they negotiate a deal with the Uzels to buy the property back if that's
So
what
you
they
want to
decide
give
to do?
the Uzels an opportunity to make money off the property?
No, what I'm saying is, if the downtown development wants a property and they have the option to buy it, can't they buy it? Because what we would do is we would simply give it to them. We would give it to the downtown development. And I'm not saying I'm for or against that, but it just seems like if these individuals were already told that they could buy that property. The city decided that they want to use the property for their own benefit, so they removed the option for him to get that property. So I'm saying, if the council decided, which it is our decision, so we don't have to consult anyone really, we could make the decision here.
Exactly.
The downtown development could propose a price to buy it from the Uzels if they wanted that property.
Just like anybody else could.
So that's what I'm saying. If the downtown development wants to do that, then I think they have the option to do that.
Just point of reference, would it go out for bid, or would it specifically be going to the Azels?
I think you would have to
It
offer it
gives-
as
upset
surplus
that process.
property.
Right.
The Uzels would already made a motion on it, then it would have to be upbid, I would imagine, right, Catherine?
The same process that it would normally go through, right? So let me
Yes.
clarify that. I'm not deeming it to the Uzels. I want that to be clear. It would go through our same process that it always goes through when people are trying to acquire property from the city. I hope
And,
that's
and,
clear.
and that is all I want.
Just as a point of reference, it's been a long time since we've gone through one of these, but this happened to a lot of flood damaged properties years ago. And also that properties have not been paid for unpaid taxes too. And I think that's why that just went through and nobody really noticed. So, let's just make a comment. I don't have any problem with it. Keep it.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor of making this property available for sale to the Uzel family or representative, signify by raising your hand.
Wait, ho. I'm sorry, Mayor. One
Okay.
Because
second.
we're not,
So should we,
Make it a
should she
surplus
amend that motion? Because we're not,
no, I'm
Just declare it.
surplus. I'm declaring it surplus, not that it's gonna be sold to them, which, that's what the county has already said. The county already made it surplus and had accepted, from what I've been reading and research, and have approved it. We, as council, never discussed it. That was my concern. So now, what I want to do is make it surplus. So I'm not saying give it to the Uzels either.
No, nor did I say that.
I just want to make sure it's clear so we can be voting. I support the motion that you made, and I think you mentioned the Uzel family initially, and I will still stand by my second to honor that. I just want it to be clear based on the point of
I
reference
just
that
want
was
it to
made
be
on the table.
available so that either one can get it, and not that it's just given to downtown or just given to the Uzzell family. Make it surplus so either one of them can get it, and I think that that would be fair.
Mr. Lawrence, correct me if
So
I'm
I
wrong.
stand by my first motion, whatever that was. I didn't even write it down.
Would you repeat it?
The motion was to make the property at 200 North Carolina Street surplus property.
Okay,
And available for offer,
right.
okay? I think you need to, for offer to, yes, make it available for offer to purchase. Then the council will consider whatever offer is made, and you can deem at that point in time whether or not you accept that. If you do, then it goes through the upset bid process, as Ms. Quinn said.
Okay, thank you.
Is everyone clear on
And
the motion?
I feel better about that.
Okay. All in favor of approving the motion as stated, please signify by raising your hand.
All opposed?
All opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Okay, we move to new business. We have NC Core, New Core Affordable Housing.
All right, good afternoon, good evening. I hope y'all are doing well. Matt Whittle with Habitat for Humanity. I want to bring this to council for consideration. Been working with Matt and Felicia on this. This is essentially a proposal for the city to submit a grant application to NCORE, North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency, part of DPS. To do some affordable housing work on our McNair Street property. So I'll go through a little presentation to kind of explain what we're asking the city to do, what this project is, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Just as a reminder of what Habitat is, our vision, our mission, of course, we believe that Goldsboro should be, Wayne County should be a community in which everyone has a decent place to live. And our mission is to work with our neighbors to share God's love by building homes, communities, and hope through affordable home ownership. Again, a reminder of our impact to date, 95 new homes built, 8 homes recycled to new homeowners, 40 home repairs, and serving 143 families locally. We have a track record of success when it comes to new home ownership, when it comes to home construction. Again, just some background. If you want to see some examples of what we've been doing, many of y'all have been out there. I do encourage you to go back out to our Marshall Street neighborhood back behind Franklin Bakery on North Georgia Avenue, Marshall Street, and North Alabama. We have 3 houses under construction out there currently, with 1 more to go, and that'll be 11 homes in that neighborhood, and definitely an asset to the Choice Neighborhoods project that's being planned right now. So what we're talking about today, though, I wanted to share those just for a bit of background as to where we're at. Again, I encourage you to go by and take a look at those properties and see that work being done on Marshall Street. But what we're talking about today is our McNair Heights neighborhood. This is off of Dr. H.E. McNair Street, formerly Poplar Avenue, or Poplar Street. It's a 24.5 acre tract. You can see it is outlined in blue right there. Part of it is cleared, part of it is wooded. You can sort of see the faint outline of where Berry Street was originally going to run, but for reasons unknown to me, the developer at the time decided not to continue that project. Just another look at it. From the ground, you see it is a mostly a cleared lot. You can see this spot right here where the road would connect from Franklin, Berry connecting over to McNair Street. And then there is the proposed sketch plan of the property. You can see we are not dealing with this project, with this grant proposal, we're not dealing with the interior of this property. We have some ideas for how we want to develop that. We have some plans, we're sketching out some things, but really at the moment we're waiting for our surveys to come back to help us better understand what exactly the possibilities are to create a vibrant neighborhood throughout the whole property. What we're talking about today is really just this stretch along the Berry, what I'm going to call the Berry Street extension. And that's where I'm going to stop for just a second. What you see here, to explain a little bit more, you see some cutouts. What this is there are 6 lots down McNair Street that we plan to develop over the next several years. And then during this grant period, we're hoping to develop out the infrastructure on Berry Street. It has water lines running through it currently. It has a sewer line running about a third of the way through. So we would need to extend the sewer. We need to put in the road, the curb, the gutter, the sidewalk, all of that. We see the sections left there for potential future roads going into the interior off of Berry Street. So what we're looking at, again, the scope of the infrastructure, the scope of the project is infrastructure for the extension of Berry Street to serve an anticipated 26, maybe 25 homes. There was a little bit of discrepancy on some of the measurements from our different sketch plans. But 25 to 26 homes for infrastructure for those, the water, the sewer, the road, the sidewalk, the curb and gutter. Construction of 8 of those homes, and those homes being sold to families, all of them under 80% AMI. 40 to 80% AMI is the range of which Habitat serves. Total project budget for the infrastructure for this stretch of Berry Street and the construction of those 8 homes. These numbers are currently estimated. We have a few more weeks to go until this grant needs to be turned in. So we're fine tuning our numbers a little bit. But total project budget is about $4.5 million. And we are requesting from Encore, requesting that the city request from Encore about $3.4 million. We'll get into a little bit of breakdown of those. So what are we requiring from the city? We're not asking anything from the city. We're not going to ask for any money down. There is no match requirement placed specifically upon the city. Of course, Encore will score these based on matches and based on how much money is being brought into the project, but Habitat plans to cover that $1.5 million difference ourselves over the course of our project. So we are not asking that the city put any money into this, simply that the city be the applicant and be the sort of the fiduciary for that. Note the asterisks, we're not asking for any money from the city's general fund, of course, but because of the city's own home funds, its own federal funds, through the CHOTO and the home buyer assistance programs, we would anticipate about $160,000 coming to this project from those based on past allocations to those programs. What this is this is the third round of funding that Encore has released through their Affordable Housing Development Program. It's being released for properties for counties that were impacted by Hurricanes Matthew and Florence, which Goldsboro and Wayne County certainly apply to. Again, the city of Goldsboro would be the applicant to Encore for the CDBG DR funds. These are CDBG disaster relief funds flowing through HUD, and would be the subrecipient of the funds. Habitat would be the developer for the project as well as the contractor for the home construction. The responsibilities of the city, again, no money, but simply to support the application, to submit the application, to show evidence of the local support. So a motion of the council perhaps approving the city to move forward with this, a letter of support from the city would be helpful with that. And then also the city in the application will need to show that the project is consistent with its community planning priorities related to resiliency against future storms, which this property falls under. We build to high storm resistant standards, and the property is out of the 100 and 500-year flood. Again, city responsibilities continued here. This is the big one, to show the capacity to manage the CBGDR grant. Note, this can be done by staff, could be done by Matt and Felicia's office, or it could be contracted out. And if the city so choose, they could add in, I believe, Matt, correct me if you've read this differently. My understanding is the city can add in a funding request to hire.
Administrative costs are funded through the grant. That's correct.
So yeah, so the city can add into the grant request that administrative cost to manage those funds. And you can see the breakdown there as to what all management of these funds entails. But it's Encore has said that they also are aware that there are many cities, many small towns in eastern North Carolina applying for these funds that do not have the experience that even Goldsboro with managing HUD dollars. And so they are on hand to make sure this runs as smoothly and all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. They don't want to have to take any funding back. They want to give it back. How would this partnership be structured? The city would be, again, the sub-recipient would submit to Encore any reimbursement payments, including those admin costs as noted. Habitat would receive the sub-awards. Sub-awards would be made to Habitat. They would be non-amortizing, Charles, you can help me with that, saying that better than I can. Loans requiring the land use restrictions based on the affordability period with HUD and all of that. And then, of course, the city would monitor Habitat, they would monitor our work to ensure that everything meets the in-core standards and all the federal regulations are being followed. The timeline, the reason we're bringing it to you all today is the application deadline is August 25th. We had submitted an LOI back in late June. That came back pretty much immediately. They said, send us an application. So we've been working on that application. Like I said, we're still fine tuning our numbers a little bit as we get toward the final days of this, but the application deadline is the 25th. Would expect those award announcements in October. And they have not set a firm deadline for when this grant period would end, but we're anticipating it being sometime mid-26. So sometime at the end of that 25, 26. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
So Matt, you and Matt, the two Matts have been meeting,
Yes, sir, we've
Not
talked
meeting,
several
but
times
meeting.
on this.
and so, Matt, you're well read in on this, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am.
Okay. All right. Any questions from council members?
Can our CDBG handle this responsibility?
Well, as far as administering the grant, I would probably do that if we were able to get it, just because it requires some interpretation of Davis-Bacon and things like that. So there's a little bit of complexity with that, but we can handle it.
You can handle it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's my question.
I've done them before, so
Okay,
not that I liked them, but
that's
I've
my
done
big
it.
question. We're not gonna have to hire additional people.
Not for something this size.
Okay.
It's a pretty small project in general.
It's pretty big for us. Yes, sir.
Can you go through the numbers again, Matt? The amount you're going to request, and what exactly that's going to do, and what happens if the costs exceed that amount?
We're responsible for it. I mean, so the subrecipient is technically responsible.
That's us.
As a developer, I would say that would be, it would be our responsibility if our costs went over. That's something that could be ironed out in the developer agreement that would be, that is required to be signed and submitted with the application. But the language in the manual, the funding manual does say that the subrecipient is responsible for any cost overruns or anything like that. But as a developer, I imagine that
So what goes into that cost again?
that is the cost of infrastructure. That is the
Talking
cost.
water, sewer, roads?
The water, sewer, road, sidewalk, curb, gutter, stormwater. That's the cost of construction of those 8 homes. That's the cost of down payment assistance for the families for those 8 homes. That's contingencies built into that. That is, as well as permits, the impact fees the city has put in, the tap fees.
Have those plans been reviewed?
What
Have
plans
those
are we-
plans been reviewed?
No,
by
no,
the
we're not
city
to that,
staff?
we're not to that point yet.
I did have him meet with our planning staff and our community development staff over this because I wanted them to be aware of the grant and some of the different parameters that are involved in this project.
I'm just saying, if the numbers don't work out like you plan, and there's more of a cost, that cost's gonna be eaten by the city, or does the program, the plan get diminished?
That would be something that we can work out in the developer agreement, but I would not ask the city to eat costs that Habitat's responsible for.
But you're only responsible for the building of the properties, the houses on the properties.
Now,
We're gonna be responsible for the infrastructure. Which is
We're
what
the,
most of this
we're the
grant's
developer,
about.
unless the city wants to be the developer on infrastructure, we're the developer on infrastructure. So the city is providing, is the pass-through for the funding for it, but we're the ones that are doing the project. Unless the city wants to take over the development and contract with the
Okay,
engineer,
I'm
with
just being
the,
clear here, so you're gonna contract
company
all the,
directly.
you're gonna contract all the road work, water, sewer work?
that's the way this is planned out, yes, sir.
Okay.
But
Okay,
if
could
the
you-
city wants to contract, I'm happy to let y'all do it, that's,
Well, that's the kind of thing we do, but, so I'm
Yeah,
just trying to clarify here.
Can you go back and say that again? Because I'm concerned about infrastructure. We already have a lot of infrastructure issues. Can you say that again?
Can you pull up the piece of property you wanna develop, Matt? so the infrastructure that goes with that housing on this piece of property is what you're gonna contract for, not just the houses that go on the properties once the.
Right, we don't contract for the house, I mean, we build the houses ourselves, so we're contracting the infrastructure.
Did you say, excuse me, did you say there was water, sewer
There
already in
is a
there?
water line that runs the length of, see the very, you see where the,
It's a very small amount.
Okay.
so, if you can. Can't see it. Anyway, so Berry Street ends right here currently. Everything past that, there's a water line that runs through there. Like I said, extending off of Berry Street, the septic, or not septic, the sewer line runs about a third of the way through the property. So that's already there. The road, finishing the sewer line, we'd like to add the ability to tie in where you see this potential roads cut so we have the ability to move into the interior of the property when the time is right. But then, of course, the road, sidewalk, curb, gutter, stormwater, all that sort of stuff, including the infrastructure.
The reason why I'm supportive of his application is because it's in an area of the city where we already have some affordable housing and we need more. The infrastructure's already partially in place and the plans have been laid out, so to a certain degree, it's ready to go. Adding on to the existing would be less expensive than creating a whole new infrastructure layout. And it just fits in with our need for overall more affordable homes in an area that it would also lend itself well as part of our overall plan, so. And it's grant funded, so if we can get it grant funded, then it's even better.
Thank you, Matt, for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's a great area to put those types of homes.
We're excited about the project, and we hope this will be the first phase. Like I said, this is what needs to be done first, and then we can bring back further discussions for any potential projects on the interior.
Any other questions, comments?
So what I think we need from the board is just saying that you approve of the city applying for this grant and going forward with it. A vote on that.
Do we need a motion? Okay. Is there a motion for the city of Goldsboro to assist in the application for the grant for the project at the McNair Heights?
We would be the primary grant, we're not assisting, we are the primary grant.
Okay, would be correct, be the primary applicant for the grant for the construction of the McNair Heights project.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Get it back.
Got it? One, okay. We had 3 seconds.
If I may, just to
Pick
belay,
either one of us.
just to belay some of the concerns, Matt, publicly, can we go ahead and say that we would anticipate this being a fixed price design build contract where that,
We are working with the engineer to do surveying and all right now. I can't say that for sure. I don't know what that's going to look like. We have not had those discussions, but we welcome the guidance of the city moving forward as to how all that gets designed, planned out.
because the main concern that, that we heard council discuss, at least what I think I heard, was any potential cost overruns. Y'all as developers, if you have a fixed price contract, then it is what it is. Y'all are responsible for it regardless of what it is. And so I just wanted to publicly say, I would support us going in a fixed price contract, or a fixed price development contract format. I'm not making that part of the motion, but I do, for those watching and listening, I do think that is the direction that we should go, just to belay those concerns slightly, but I'm fully in support, and I appreciate the work you've done.
And note that just because we get, if awarded the grant, the council would still have to accept it. And there would still be work to do to settle the contracts, move forward, the site plans, the designs, final designs, all of that. So there are opportunities to come back, and there will be further opportunities to discuss and refine this project. This simply allows us to put the application in for funding. If we were to come back something were to have happened and prices were to have doubled beyond what the application was originally for, then certainly council can revisit whether or not it accepts any award.
Any other question or discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor, second, for Goldsboro to take the lead in applying for the funds for the McNair Heights project. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay, we have an unanimous, the motion carries.
Thank you all so
Thank you,
much,
sir.
and we look forward to working with the city on this.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, the next item is insurance waiver for Butts Mobile Home Movers.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. Hope everyone's doing well. As the Mayor said, this is insurance waiver for Butts Mobile Home Movers to relocate the city's modular building. The modular building located at Fire Station 4 is scheduled to be relocated to the Public Works Complex to be repurposed for IT office space and storage. All efforts to find a single contractor capable of relocating and setting up the modular building and who also meets all the insurance requirements have been exhausted to no avail. Butts Mobile Home Movers is the only local contractor that's shown any interest or who is capable of completing the entire relocation and setup of the project. They've accomplished the initial relocation and setup of the modular currently at Fire Station 4, as well as the one for the signal shop at the Public Works Complex. Since 2017, they did this in 2017. Since then, the city has updated the general liability and workers' compensation insurance requirements for anyone working on city property. Mr. Butts does meet the auto insurance requirements, but not the general liability or workers' comp. According to our insurance carrier, the auto liability is the largest exposure to risk in this case. Mr. Butts accomplished 2 previous moves, modular moves, as I mentioned, for the city in 2017 and is capable of accomplishing the current relocation. Hiring a general contractor who meets the general liability and worker comp requirements to oversee the removal, transportation, and installation of the modular will more than likely double the current cost that we're looking at paying. Staff recommends council waive the workers' compensation and general liability requirements for Butts Mobile Home Movers so they can be awarded the contract and relocate the modular.
Any questions? Any questions? Okay, we need a motion. Is there a motion to waive the workers' compensation and general liability requirements for Butts Mobile Home Movers to relocate the city's modular building?
So moved.
Motion's made, is there a second?
I'll say.
Motion's made and seconded, any further discussion? If not, all approving, please signify by raising your hand. Okay. Have unanimous passage of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the Public Safety Complex Repairs, Public Works.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ham, council members. I'm here to give an update on the public safety complex and our efforts to get together a plan to make some repairs. The original 50-year-old building and the subsequent 4 building additions all have sinking foundations, causing structural separation between the roof and the walls, which have allowed water to infiltrate. Many windows have gaps and see light through, so excessive water during rains, moisture from humidity is causing HVAC problems. We have had some new HVAC system equipment installed, but the excessive moisture is is overwhelming the system. Some interior outlets and internet connections actually have water dripping in them. The interior floor slab is sinking in multiple locations, causing plumbing issues, and our initial estimate on repair is $2 to $3 million. Just looking, we're estimating $10 to $15 million to build a new facility. And this is just for information. We have several options. We can repair the identified problems with the current facility. We could replace all but the newest addition, or we can make a complete new complex. The next step is for us to send out a request for proposal for firms to competitively bid to create the project information that would then be bid on to make the repairs. I've got a few slides. The first one really just a summary, the key facts. The only one not mentioned in the memorandum is some of the interior repairs, we're going to be removing tile floor, so there will be some asbestos abatement required. The next slide, we have made some assessment activities. We've hired Lynch Mikens, who've provided a structural assessment and given us recommendations to go forward on how to start analyzing all the individual problems that need to be corrected. We have had Ramjack provide a proposal to install helical piers on all the sinking exterior foundation walls and a couple of interior foundation walls. And that cost is going to be around $500,000. Next slide. We've only spent $2,500 so far on the Lynch Mikens assessment, which was a very general review for some engineers to look at the overarching problems, which is a foundation failure, which is now causing other structural damage. And the last slide. This slide is just to show you where the helical piers that Ramjack recommended, there's 160 they would install. And so every wall that you see that's red is a wall that is sinking. And as you can see, it's every section except for the new section. And the north door is sinking a little bit, and there's a crack in the foundation, so they recommended a couple of piers on each side of that door. But you can see that the structural issues throughout the whole complex. Back up. Now, these other costs that are to be determined is why we will use another engineer assessment to come and really look at, here's all the different ceiling and wall joints. Here's how we repair that, because we have 4 basically different construction periods. Each one has different details, different connection types. So someone has to analyze and identify every spot we need to correct and repair. And then once you get the building watertight, you can start addressing HVAC and mold issues and other items. But before we do anything, we would like to go ahead and get a good total, a real estimate, so we can process what we're really talking about to make the correction. And we really don't know yet. It's going to be big, but it may not be so big we can't move forward and make the repairs. Any questions?
Well, before you step down, first of all, I want to commend you and the Public Works Director and everyone else involved in researching this situation. It's come to light here in a more drastic impact assessment here lately of just the state of the police fire complex. And we know it's going to cost several $1 million to repair it, if that's the decision.
Correct.
And it's going to cost a lot more to replace it. And I spoke to Senator Tillis's assistant, one of his assistants here 3 weeks ago. You helped me prepare some information for him and talked about this. I gave him a packet to take with him. He responded back with some recommendations on funding that we might seek. So we can't put this off any longer. We've got to deal with this. This is something that I can't wait till the next council. Not that the next council won't be involved in it, but we can't just say, well, we're not going to take any action on it. We're just going to leave it late till January.
Well, I mean, we have to make some kind of repairs. I mean, the building is literally falling down. But in addition to these repairs, we've got a large section of the building is 50 years old. And so it needs things like bathroom fixtures and stalls and just flooring updates, where it's just worn from 50 years of use. But before we even address any of those costs, we've got to shore up the foundation. Because this is not, the helical piers do not fix any item. It only prevents further settling. But we can't make any repairs until we stop the settling. So that's kind of where we are. But we do want to get some harder numbers to have a better total before we start down that road.
And you'll come back with us, to us with those numbers as you get them.
Yes, sir. we've got like a little committee working, and,
Yeah.
and Mr. Livingston's on it, and we're trying to track down the best process to go forward to get these numbers and not just have guesses.
So our reason for this presentation was to get you up to speed on things. We knew it was going to be something that you needed to know about as soon as possible with fairly detailed information. But we also, it's above our heads, in terms of the engineering and things like that, that we need to make sure that whoever oversees these repairs does this kind of work for a living and can certify that this kind of work that they're doing is done properly, and we can count on a building for 25 more years. If we do nothing, it falls into the ground, and we've got major, major issues in 5 years. We already have major issues now, but then we're talking about the cracks are going to get wider, and it's going to just be ruined. I mean, so we either fix it, demo it, build a new one. Those are pretty much the options, but we need expertise to tell us, hey, okay, if you fix it, we think we can get 25 more years out of this building. So we're kind of, we need expertise in this matter to make sure that we're spending the money properly and we're going to get it done right, so we don't have to go back and, if we do fix it, we fix it right, so we don't have to go back and do it again.
And we've had discussions about, we really want to have the type of contract where we hire an engineer consultant to manage all phases. So we have somebody to go to hold responsible, because it's going to take a half a dozen different contractors to make these repairs. And we want to eliminate the finger pointing of that was his job, not my job. We want a comprehensive engineering solution that ties all these contractors together so there's no gap.
Any other comments, discussion? Okay, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. Okay, next is wastewater reclamation facility expansion, and Mr. Livingston.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For you tonight is a request to move forward with wastewater system design engineering services. As you well know, our treatment plant is, while we've still got capacity, we're at the point now where we need to start planning for expanding our facility due to our growth, and also due to the fact that, we are a regional system, but we could be more of a regional system if things go that direction, and we need to be prepared for that. So currently, our treatment plant is running about 9 million gallons a day, and our ability right now is, what is it, Bert? 14.2. But we've also committed a lot of our capacity between that 9 and that 14 for future growth, and also through some of the development agreements that we have. So we're coming before you this evening to talk to you about going to the state to increase our permit, and also hiring a design person to help us as we put forth in the budget this year about $600,000 to go to a design company to design the plant, the plans and specifications for the expansion. We would like to increase the expansion up to 7 MGD in addition to the 14.2 we have now. That would also require a permit expansion at the state level. So we want to do those concurrently, and we feel like this will put us in the best position to serve Goldsboro and the future growth in the area for many years to come. But this process takes several years going through the state to get these permits, and just designing it itself takes a while too. And so that's where we're at. You guys have any questions? And Bert's here as well. He can answer some of the more technical questions.
Any questions of Bert? Well, I think, and any discussion amongst us, by the way. I think it's incumbent upon us to understand that we are reaching our limits on certain infrastructure capabilities. And as growth continues to go forward, our requirements and we're going to require larger capacity.
Yes, sir.
And so we have to face that issue, like we just talked about facing the other issue on the police and fire complex. So I'd like to for the council to give the assistant manager a vote of confidence to proceed on forward, and let's move towards the actions that he talked about. Anyone object to that?
Not at all.
Okay, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that concludes the business on the agenda. At this time, we can move to review the consent agenda items.
Consent agenda item G, amending a grant project fund ordinance. Ms. Quinn?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item I have tonight is amending the grant project ordinance for the 2010 sewer bonds, which is S1104 is the fund number. Council adopted the project budget ordinance in May of 2010 in the amount of $8.6 million for various sewer system improvements. The fund has been amended several times over the years to appropriate investment income on the unspent proceeds. In fiscal '21, the city had to repair the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base sewer outfall, and in order to utilize the remaining bond proceeds, the project was accounted for in Fund S1104. The original bond proceeds were recognized in the utility fund, so a transfer of funds was budgeted in '21 in the utility fund and transferred to the 2010 sewer bond project fund. This amendment recognizes the appropriation of revenues and expenses in the project fund. This amendment will also close the project fund, and there is a small transfer back into the utility fund. Motion. We have an ordinance for the council to look at tonight, and if approved, we'll close that.
Yes, ma'am.
So my next item is authorization of sale of substandard lots to the adjacent property owner under Session Law 2004-94, which is Senate Bill 1370, for 100 Whitfield Drive and South Alabama Street, Mr. John H. Oliver, Jr. Staff received an offer to purchase on this city-owned property deemed as a substandard lot. Council must either accept or reject the offer, and if accepted, authorize city officials to execute instruments for ownership. The first lot on 100 Whitfield Drive has a tax value of $3,110, and the South Alabama Avenue lot has a tax value of $350. These are both substandard lots as determined by the planning department. Therefore, the minimum offer is $1 per lot. The city has received that in the form of money. If the offers are accepted by council, planning department will notify the adjacent property owners to determine if there is any interest in the lot. If there is, then we must follow the procedures of Session Law 2004-94. If not, there's no interest, then the city staff will get the documents necessary to transfer the property to.
Any questions on this item? If not, we'll go to the next one.
Or I need to have a motion to accept Mr. Oliver's offer if you're interested.
Okay.
Motion to accept.
The motion's made to accept the offer. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor of accepting the motion to accept the offer, please signify by raising your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a resolution in your packet to approve
see it.
later. Okay. My next item is operating budget amendment for fiscal '24. Council adopted the fiscal '24 annual operating budget on June 20th, 2023. We have several items to present tonight. In Public Works Buildings and Grounds, the division has been asked to handle the mowing of the enhancement areas previously managed by planning. Original funding was moved from planning to Parks and Recreation with the creation of the '24 budget. Upon further analysis of the duties, Ms. Felicia Brown, our Parks and Recreation Director, determined that her department could not manage the enhancement areas that are outside of the welcome sign. So this task was assigned to Public Works, which is Mr. Rick Fletcher. He has requested an additional $16,000 in temporary labor for his buildings and ground staff to be able to do the mowing that's necessary. The additional appropriation will be funded with a reduction in temporary labor in Parks and Recs Department. In solid waste, at the June 20th, 2023 council meeting, Mr. Fletcher requested an appropriation of $231,000 for the purchase of a new trash compactor for the transfer station to replace the existing compactor that is approximately 40 years old. Mr. Fletcher has received an estimate of approximately $349,000, and as we discussed at the June 20th meeting, the remaining balance of $119,000 must be appropriated in the fiscal '24 budget, and this will be funded with an appropriation of fund balance. And in the general fund, we have a transfer, and at the June 20th meeting, I presented an amendment to the G-11108 Community Special Relations Fund to address some minor corrections that were needed due to an error in allocations that was made. I was not able to include that transfer in the general fund at the June 20th meeting. I just ran out of time. So I am appropriating it in fiscal '24 of $1,720.60 to move into that Community Relations Special Fund. In agency support at the July 17th council meeting, Ms. Archibald presented the FY '24 nonprofit funding recipients. The list was approved by council at that time. I have presented a recap in the memo for the council that is included in the budget amendment that you have attached by agency fund. In the stormwater fund, when I was preparing the budget estimates for the debt service, I had inadvertently made an error in the coding section of the new debt service to the general fund when it should have been the stormwater fund. The debt service in the stormwater fund is short by $78,391 and must be appropriated, as we are required to have all debt service appropriated. This will be funded with a reduction in the contingency in the stormwater. Purchase order rollover, included in the attached ordinance is a list of the appropriations from fiscal '23 that will be rolling to fiscal '24. That these were approved in the adopted budget, that appropriations that could not be satisfied at the end of '23 would be rolled into '24. Our departments were given a list in early July after they turned in their June 30 bills, and they were asked to roll over appropriations more than $5,000 on contracts, so this could be goods, materials, services, etc., that they needed to complete in the new fiscal year. I have included a detailed list of all the purchase orders by department so the council can see what is being rolled over. It's a big list, okay? So it does impact you as far as your fund balance goes. I did provide you an analysis of appropriated fund balance in the memo. In the general fund, of course, you are aware that the city council approved a $1.5 million appropriation of fund balance to balance the general fund in fiscal '24. The purchase order rollovers in the general fund are a little over $2 million, and the balance of the trash compactor that you're appropriating tonight is $119,000. So the additional appropriation of fund balance is $2.18 million, which brings the current year with the proposed to $3,682,000 of fund balance that will be appropriated in fiscal '24. So that is a very, very big number. So just understand that. Stormwater fund, I provided that. It's $136,000. The utility fund, of course, with all the supply chain issues that we had a lot of purchase orders that were rolling over. The council approved quite a number of projects for BERT to do some improvements on the water treatment plant and the water reclamation facility. So the appropriation of fund balance from the purchase order rollovers is $2,911,000 and some change. And there is a small amount in the downtown MSD fund of about $9,000. Now, as far as an analysis of the purchase order rollovers by fund, the total operating funds we are appropriating would be $5.1 million. Project funds are $1.6 million for a total purchase order rollover of $6.7 million. The council does not have to approve rollovers in project funds because they are on a project basis, not on an annual operating basis like the operating. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Anyone have a question?
I think that was it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that is the list of the consent agenda items. And at this time, if we have no further business, we'll go into I'm sorry.
Closed session for litigation.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We'll go into closed session for litigation. So ladies and gentlemen, if you'll kindly excuse yourself while we're in closed session.
Need a motion? Motion to go in closed session.
Okay, right.
For litigation purposes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor of going into closed session, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, we're in closed session. in open session now. Is there any further business? If not, we recess until 7 o'clock in the council chambers.